You know, when you're a kid, you got posters on your bedroom walls of some of your favorite musicians, and you sit there imagining what it would like to be on stage with them. And the next person you're going to hear from is certainly living that.
Yeah, you're gonna die with the lies that they flash inside your head. Are you gonna live by the thorns in what you said? They don't freak, gotta walk, they don't talk, so you packed up and got away.
The young English rock star Yungblud grew up in his grandfather's guitar shop, basically surrounded by walking encyclopedias of rock and roll history. Now he's a big star himself, 3 Grammy nominations, a nod from some of the biggest names in rock music. Mick Jagger said he's bringing life back to rock and roll. The late Ozzy Osbourne gifted him one of his cross necklaces. And now he's made an EP with Aerosmith called One More Time.
Will you cry if I call you my angel? Gotta leave, gotta leave, gotta leave you one more time.
But as much as he's living the life, as I mentioned, of those posters on the wall, what I think is really powerful, he's also reconsidering why we need those posters in the first place. And I'm happy to say that Yungblud is joining me now. How are you? Thanks for being here.
I'm good, man. Thank you so much, man. Me doorbell's going off. Sorry.
Who's that now? What do you got coming?
I ain't got a clue. I think someone's here. Probably some package, man. It always happens, doesn't it? But what? Thank you for my talk up. That was insane. Thanks so much. I'll slide you $20 later.
Listen, I'll take it. The Canadian exchange rate means it's more like 50. I was telling you I drove through Doncaster when I was going through. I would love to be able to tell you, and the interview would go better if I told you I stopped and took in the sights. But I was driving from Sheffield to Hull, and I would pass through Doncaster.
That is a deep cut because every time I say to someone, whether I'm in Canada or the United States, I'm always like, yo, I'm from a place called Doncaster, and everyone has no idea where that is. So I end up having to basically say that I'm from Manchester, which I'm not, because people go, oh, the football team, eh? And then that's when they get it. So I'm kind of honored that you've driven through my town, even though you didn't stop and take a picture.
No, I was up there because I played folk music and traditional music and all that, and there's all these great old folk songs and all these great singing nights up in Sheffield and around there. So I was up singing songs around there.
Yeah, Sheffield's an amazing music city. I really would rehearse with my first band in a rehearsal studio called Yellow Arch, which is a very famous rehearsal studio where the Arctic Monkeys used to work out of, and metal bands like While She Sleeps and Bring Me the Horizon. So we've got a lot of good stuff out of the north of England. I think because it rains so much, we make good music.
So you got this collaboration with Aerosmith now. Did they mean anything to you growing up?
100%. I think like everyone always used to say to me that they thought I was Steven Tyler's kid because of my mouth. Because my mouth's so big, like
I see it. Yeah, I see it.
You know what I mean? A lot of people growing up used to say that my mouth was quite similar to Steven Tyler's, and I think I grew up in a guitar shop. You know, my grandfather brought me up, and my dad brought me up in a guitar shop. So I think I was really exposed to rock music and classic rock music young, and Aerosmith are always in the conversation when it comes to great classic rock music. So I've kind of been watching their videos since I was 3 years old, you know, I mean, before I was even really coherent.
How was being in the studio with him? I read something that like you had a sing-off with Steven Tyler or something like that.
I think what's cool is there was this beautiful competition between me and Steven. You know, I think like, obviously he is one of the most legendary singers of all time. And I've kind of got this young fearlessness, that's what he said, that he kind of loved. And he's obviously a legend. So we were kind of trying to outdo each other in like a really cool way, you know, and I think that's what was magic. So obviously Steven had his vocal injury, and we never knew if he would come back to singing again. And when he kind of steps into the vocal booth, you're like, wow, that's Steven Tyler, you know what I mean? I think kind of when he goes on a microphone, we've all known this voice, so it's immediately iconic. When he sings, and I don't know, man, it was a little bit of a pinch me moment to be in a vocal booth, and I'm like, oh, that is Steven Tyler. You remember that Mark Wahlberg film, Rockstar?
Yeah.
Fully like that. I'm like, how the hell did I get here? You know what I mean? It's really cool.
I mean, how you got there is what you were talking about earlier when you were talking about growing up at your grandfather's guitar shop. I read that or I found somewhere that it's not just the guitar shop. Your grandfather, did he audition for T-Rex?
Yeah, he auditioned. He didn't get in because I think he had big curly haircut like Mark Bolan, so they didn't let him in.
T-Rex, one of the greatest British rock bands of all time.
100% inventors of glam, man. I think Mark Bolan, honestly, really extremely inspirational to people like Bowie and Iggy and Lou Reed. You know, I think really had the fearlessness to play with androgyny in a way that others didn't. You know, back then you kind of get beaten up for it, and he really had the bottle to experiment and kind of make an art piece out of androgyny and glam rock. And I think every time Get It On comes on, I put it on 10 minutes before I go on stage. You know, it's insane.
Your grandfather was sort of in that world. He was sort of in that glam rock early.
Yeah, he was in a touring rock band, and he played keys, Wurlitzer, and bass. And he toured the UK and saved up some money and then decided to buy a shop in the north of England because back in the day, there was no stop. There was no major shop between London and Glasgow. So when bands were coming over from America and touring, if you run out of guitar strings or want to buy a guitar or something breaks or whatever, there was no major shop between London and Glasgow. So they had a shop in Doncaster, which is right smack bang in the middle. So people would come to the shop and buy a load of whatever they needed. So it kind of became famous in the UK. It was cool.
Like, who did he tell you went to it? Who did he see?
He'd had everyone, especially in the 90s, kind of like Noel Gallagher, Cast, Johnny Marr, loads of people. They've dealt with like Jimmy Page. They've dealt with so many people that came through that shop in Doncaster. And it's kind of cool because Doncaster back then was an old market town that was really famous and the surrounding areas for mining and marketing. So you had all these rock stars coming through this tiny town that was pretty cool. You know, you wouldn't really know Doncaster. You know what I mean? You go to a big city like Leeds or York or Manchester, but there's this tiny little market town with a guitar shop on the high street that, yeah, the likes of like Noel Gallagher were coming through and Johnny Marr. Is cool.
What I'm trying to build here a little bit is like,
and Bryan Adams. Also, Bryan Adams went there famously.
Tell me,
which is correct.
Bryan Adams, like the Canadian Bryan Adams, went there.
Yeah, the Canadian Bryan Adams. That's what just came to my head. I know I'm obviously you guys are in Canada, so I was like, Bryan Adams came through once, and it was funny because my mum was really young, way before they had me, and there's a crazy story that I think Robin Hood, Prince Fees had just come out, so everything I do it for you was exploding worldwide, and I think the song was bigger than he was at that time. It was a real moment where internationally his music became famous, and they said that he was going to come to the shop, and it was a really big deal. So my dad and my granddad were going to organise a big dinner, and my mum gets sat down next to this guy. She's talking to him for 2 hours and didn't realise that it was Bryan Adams because I don't think his face was as famous as his song at that time. And my mum always tells that story. She said I felt like such a klutz because she was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a musician." And then about an hour and a half later, she was like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "My name's Brian." And she's like, "Oh, shit."
But you know now that you're at that level that you would love that, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I think that's great. I think like that's kind of that's more fun than people running around you assuming the sun shines out your arse. You know what I mean? I think it's way more fun to because it becomes a story, and that's what we do this for, isn't it? Memories and stories, you know?
When your grandfather and then your father takes over the guitar shop, they would see people come in with a guitar because they got signed, right? So they got signed, they come in and buy a really nice guitar.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they're dropped and they're selling it.
Yes.
Talk to me a little. I thought that was so stunning, man. Talk to me a little bit about that, and how that may have people may have been dissuading you from a career in the arts.
100%. I think I grew up around incredible musicians who would show me these songs, and they would be in bands, and they were kind of my educators, really. You know what I mean? They would teach me like The Trooper by Iron Maiden, or like expose me to stuff from like, I don't know, Elbow to Pantera. You know what I mean? Anything with guitar music I was exposed to really young. And you know, they were incredible musicians, but their music hadn't taken off, so they were working in a guitar shop. So I was often dissuaded, being like, yo, this is a really hard business. It's a really hard industry to get into or to be successful in. You know, I think my dad and granddad were almost like the Grim Reapers for kind of musicians that couldn't catch a break. You know, so I was always kind of that. Obviously, everyone loved music, so the love of music was, and the dream of the pursuit of a music career was always hailed and glamorized and like wow. But a lot of people would say like, yo, this is a really hard thing to get into, and it's full of a lot of pain and a lot of rejection. And I was almost dissuaded from pursuing a career in rock and roll music because it's full of pain and it's full of rejection. And I don't know, man. I just was obsessed. I
Yeah.
love music. I love music, and these guys were my rock stars. You know what I mean? I think you kind of look at the posters on the shop wall of like Ozzy and Bowie and Iggy and Lou Reed and even bands like Slipknot and Korn and Tool and all these guys that I looked up to. But then on a more tangible setting, I had the guys who worked in the shop who were from 19 to 40 that I would look up to and be like, what's it like to play on a stage for 10 people? I thought that was so cool, let alone playing for a stadium. You know what I mean? I had stadium posters and real rock stars who would play gigs in town on a Friday night. So I was always obsessed with music and the idea of like, wow, like what's it like to go on tour? What's it like to get in a recording studio? You know, I was obsessed with this idea from the age of probably 7. You know, when I really started becoming coherent, I became obsessed with the idea of being a rock star, being in a rock band, and what that looks like. So to kind of be in this position now is just crazy. It's a trip,
Gotta
man.
be, man. It gotta be.
I think even this year more so than ever, like it's been a trip for me because I wrote an album called Idols about looking at a photograph on the wall and turning to that photograph for answers, and realizing the answers really come from within you because you never know these guys on the wall. You never know. I never knew Bowie. I never knew Ozzy until I did, you know? And then the real trip about this album was after it, I got to meet them all and sing with them all and know them all and like what is going on. You know, I think it's just I'm kind of at the end of the year has come, and I'm like trying to unpack it all and trying to process it all because I'm feeling a million different things all at once, you know.
You're feeling gratitude. You're feeling.
I'm feeling gratitude. I'm feeling excitement. I'm feeling imposter syndrome. I'm feeling exhaustion. I'm feeling pressure for the future. You know, I think I'm feeling a million things, good and bad. And I just really feel like I need to process it right now because I think you just said this. I never want to lose my gratitude because I'm so grateful to be here. And I think when you meet an artist who's a bit of a dick, you know, they never got to process it all, so they become numb and they kind of wake up 35 years later and they never felt any of it at all. And I'm trying to feel every single thing, good or bad, every positive thing and every hater. I'm trying to feel it all so I can grow up within this thing and figure out a way to handle this thing, you know, and keep it as honest and real and raw as possible.
I mean, you're on a treadmill, man. I mean, there's a great line from Johnny Carson, the guy who used to host the Tonight Show, and he said, "Making changes to my life while I host the Tonight Show is like trying to change a tire while I'm driving down the freeway." Like,
Yeah, 100%.
And with someone like you, you know, like I know there's a lot written about it right now and a lot about you right now, but like you're on a treadmill, man. You're like I understand it. You're on a treadmill, and the idea of being able to stop and go, you know. I want to take some of this in. It's a powerful thing to do.
I owe it to myself, but I also really owe it to my community because I'm so thankful to all of them. Like I before, I mean, I think this year kind of the mainstream started to take notice of me, which I'm again grateful for. But for the past 8 years, I've had this community that's been so precious to me that has allowed me to do this. You know, I think like, and I never take that for granted. I think like that's why my foundation as an artist and my fan base and my journey has been kind of pure because I get to go on this journey with people. I got to start my own festival because I didn't fit in the lines of commercial festivals or rock festivals to kind of be taken seriously in that regard, you know. So I had to start my own things, and I'm grateful to start my own things because of the community that I've got. You know what I mean?
I do want to come back to idols, though. Like, I was thinking about what you were saying around the posters on the wall and realizing you said something like, I don't know them. I don't know Bowie. What I'm curious about is, can I just tell you a quick story about me and Bob Dylan?
Fuck yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So I grew up in an island off the east coast of Canada. I grew up in Newfoundland. Like, I grew up in
Oh my, you grew up in Newfoundland?
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. And like, no one came there, man. Like, no one came there. It was like Air Supply came there and Canadian bands came there, and that was it. And I was like the biggest Bob Dylan fan in high school. Like, the biggest Bob. I mean, to me, I would use words like he was a god. Like, he was like I had books. I had analyzed poetry. Like, there was no one. I don't know. It was like heaven had given him this ability to do this, and he become this like idol to me, you know, this legend to me. Anyway, I get this news that he's coming to St. John's, and no one came to St. John's, right where I'm from. So I run down the road and I get tickets somehow, and I'm 18 and I run in, and I get to the back. I'm in the back of the room, and I go up to the front, and there he is in real life. There he is, man. Like, Bob Dylan's right there, and
Wow.
I notice that he's wearing like how do I put this? Like, I don't know. He's wearing like normal pants. He's wearing like maybe like elastic waist or like dress pants. Like, there was something about looking at him, and I had this realization of like, oh, he's just a guy. He's just a person. And then I had the second thought of, oh, isn't his music and art so much more remarkable because it just came from this person? He's not an idol. He's not an icon. He's a legend. He's not a legend. He's just a someone who had the ability to write these songs. And I've thought about that. I thought about that when I was listening to your record a lot. It was a profound moment on me. I thought about that a lot when I was listening to your record.
Yeah, I think it's a wild thing. I think I'm on kind of an expedition at the minute to try and make my favorite genre in the world. I'm trying to make rock music in a way that's not necessarily adherent to what's come before. And this was the start of the journey of that. You know, I think like rock music is such a beautiful, sacred genre because it kind of doesn't give the crown or the idea to whatever's biggest. You know, like pop or hip hop, you become the biggest if you've got the biggest song. You become the most hailed if you've got the biggest song. Rock's not like that. It's a very complex, different genre. And I really made this album because I wasn't happy with what I was making on my third album. I really felt like I compromised. And I almost said with Idols, like, if this is the end or this is no one likes this, at least I did it on my terms. You know, I went back to the north of England and I went back to 20 minutes away from where I grew up. And I wanted to make an album that would just be an encapsulation and a snapshot of my imagination. I wanted to make 9-minute songs. I wanted to make interludes. I wanted to really just, instead of sit down and go, I'm going to write a song now and it needs to be a hit or it needs to be played on the radio or it needs to be played on whatever. I just was like, let me just see what the hell comes out of my body instinctually, primally, and me spirit, you know, and I remember playing the first song, Hello Heaven Hello, which was 9 minutes to me record label, and the exec went green. I remember he was like, "What you doing? This is 9 minutes long." In 2025, when everything's 15-second sound bites and all this rubbish, you know what I mean? And I just said to everyone, I was like, I have to do this. if it doesn't work, you all can drop me. I cannot dilute myself anymore to try and fit in with modern music or the modern algorithm or playlisting or radio or the modern formats that you have to tip your hat to I don't know, get any kind of traction. I just said I want to think about the music, my fan base, and think smaller. I thought about how I put it on my Instagram, my fan base, and the music, as opposed to thinking about things that other people are in control of anyway.
Or things that other people are saying about you, or other things that other people are writing
Yeah.
about you, or other people's perceptions of you, right?
Because that's the thing, when you make a record from your head and people catch you out, it stings because they see what you tried to do. When you make a record from your soul and your heart and your inner being and people love it or don't like it, you can't do much about it because it came from within your spirit and your heart. So it's you kind of can't lose.
How do you deal with being the poster on the wall then? Like, how do you deal with reconsidering why you were looking at a poster of David Bowie and you didn't know David Bowie, and knowing that people are looking at the posters of you?
I try and normalize it. That's why I go out after every gig and I see them, even when we're playing 20,000 seaters now. I try and look people in the eye. You know what I mean? I love playing music to big crowds, but I have a real I hate being on a pedestal. So it's such a big paradox because I want to know my fan base. I want to know my community. I want to alleviate the pedestal between us in terms of like, I am this thing that is above anyone else. But I love playing when I stand on stage. I love playing to big crowds to make them move and to be a showman. You know what I mean? I don't like being on stage to be like, look at me, I am this thing. I don't like that. I just try and
You try to have an intimate show. I try to have.
I try to have an intimate experience with me and my community, even though it's in a room full of 25,000 people. You know what I mean?
You had a great story. Could you tell it about the time this woman came up to you and said, "You saved my life"?
I'll never forget this story because this was before the album came out, and the whole fundamental idea of the album was the answers come within you. You look at a photo of somebody you admire or somebody you aspire to be, but the answer comes from within you. The revelation, the epiphany, the change in your life that you might make as a result of looking at something or hearing something comes from within you.
Yeah.
That was what the album was about.
Yeah. The same thing happened, like that Bob Dylan thing. Why did Bob Dylan mean so much to me? It was because of me. Because of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of you.
Yeah.
And when you come up with that idea, you don't know if people are going to get it. And while I was doing promotion for the album, I was in Amsterdam and I did a playback for some competition winner fans. And outside there were 600 people gathered. So I was like, listen, you guys wait out here because it's cold, but I'll come and have a beer and a cigarette with you after it. So I was stood on this bench or something and I'm having a cigarette. And in these positions, you've got 1,000 phones on you. So it's kind of like so abnormal. You try and find somebody's eyes to try and normalize this situation. And I saw this girl, she was crying her eyes out, hysterically crying, and she was holding my hand like, and she was like, you saved me, you saved me, you saved my life, you saved me. And I was like, darling, I love you, but I didn't. This music and this community or something might have given you hope, but you did that all on your own. You made that decision. You made that choice to implement happiness and stay here. You know what I mean? I really wanted to see that because what was such a trip for me was the idea of the album had hit me in the face from a connection point of me between another human being. I think when you make art in any kind of capacity, a concept or a song or an image or a painting or a piece of clothing can feel and be good because you made it, even though it might be mediocre to the rest of the world. Art can be great because you made it, not because it's actually great. So to have the concept slap me in the face from a connection between another human being before the album's even out kind of made me realized that I believe my community are really going to connect to this album. And it kind of gave me a little bit of peace of mind, because this album isn't an easy thing to digest. It's wild. It's a journey. It's psychedelic. It's a lot to comprehend. It's not just like, hi guys, here's a pop song. It's 2.5 minutes that you kind of can vibe to. This was a different place. This album was about depth, not dopamine. You know what I mean? It was like about going to another place within my soul and making something that would be an elongated idea.
How do you protect yourself then? How do you, when you want to make something pure and you want to make something out? I love depth, not dopamine. When you want to make something outside of other people's ideas of you or validation of you or veneration of you, I mean practically, Dom. Like do you shut your phone off?
The idea is you don't protect yourself. You completely open your chest up and you jump off the cliff and you jump in the water. And in order to do that, you have to either completely block out the noise or be okay with what it's saying.
How do you do that?
Try and find humor within it.
Yeah. Do you not look at it? Do you block it? Do you have?
No, I realized that in the same way that someone can look up to me and say I've saved their life, someone will also ridicule and hate me to the point of it shattering my world, but me realizing that is only a mirror for their own sadness or anger or emotional an emotional battle that they're going through without finding an answer. This thing that they think I am is only a void to themselves. And I think when you realize that, you can't hate that person. You don't let it affect you as much, because it's not about me. It's so funny. You think that it's about you, but it's not. You're just a tool for someone's expression. And when you realize that as an artist, you become a thing of the world. You become Heinz ketchup. You become beer. You become beans. You become the color blue. You become a rose. People like it or they don't. And
And it's not about you. It's not about.
It's never about you.
Yeah.
That's
a powerful
you
thing.
become a vessel, and you become. If you become the world's, you choose to become the world's. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be an artist, you present your spirit out, because it's how you communicate. And then if it gets bigger than you expect, it doesn't become yours anymore. It becomes that of the world, and it becomes other people's. That's why, seen that thing of John Lennon when the fan comes to his house, it's like, you're singing about me.
Yeah, the fan goes to John Lennon's house because he confronts him and he says, "You're singing these songs about me. You're singing these songs about me."
Yeah, and he just goes, "I'm not. I'm just exploding my soul." And it's a dark thing, but it's also a beautiful thing that this guy found an answer within music that within someone said, and it just becomes a thing of the world. And you will never win the world. You'll never beat the world. You'll never beat the ocean. You will never beat the air. You will never beat the tree. It will always outlive you, crush you, and provide you life. So you've just got to let it be, man.
So let's close off by talking about the mirror being pointed back on you through artists that have meant a lot to you. You accomplished a lot this year. You had some big live performances, including this one, which is nominated for a Grammy. Can you tell me a little bit about what we're hearing there?
Yeah, I mean, you're hearing me perform at the final Black Sabbath gig, back to the beginning, Changes, that iconic record. And I mean, that was truly, I think that whole experience is the biggest thing I'm trying to unpack this year.
Tell me, what do you mean?
When you have loved an artist, I think Ozzy was the single most artist that I related to growing up. I think I was always a bit wild and I was crazy, and people find me hard to digest as a child. So I turned to this guy before I'd even heard his music. You know what I mean? He was like Batman to me. I remember seeing him at 3 years old and his massive mouth. I was like, wow, this guy's crazy. Like, like me. And then you turn 11 and you turn 13 and you find Black Sabbath and you find Ozzy's solo career and his relationship with Randy Rhoads and Zakk Wylde, and you become obsessed with his music. And then cut forward to 21, 22, you meet him for the first time. You realize that he's the kindest, coolest thing, everything you ever wanted him to be. Then you get invited to sing at his final gig. You become close to his family. You kind of feel the warmth of the family giving you a hug, like so many artists before you, because they've always listened to the youth and embraced the new. You finally get to know your hero. You honor him at a concert. You walk into the Lion's Den, whether people know you or not. He gives you a stage to show maybe a community that thinks you don't know who you are or think you're not real, a chance to do what you show them what you can do.
You have Black Sabbath fans and Ozzy fans who you're walking out on that stage and they might be going like, oh, this guy, who's this guy again? Or
who's this guy? Or what like, or I don't like this guy. I don't get this guy. You get given an opportunity by your hero to show the world what you can do. You finally start to get to know your hero on a human level, and then he dies.
Yeah.
Honestly, it makes me emotional because I'm trying to unpack this trip that I've been on, that I've loved this icon my whole life. And then and then cut forward 15 years that I never knew was going to happen. He gives me his stage to perform on. It's probably the biggest moment of my career that the world has maybe taken notice of me or taken me seriously for the first time. I get to know him and try and make him understand how thankful and grateful I have been, not only for my life and my fundamental personality, but the opportunity that he's given me, and then he dies. And then this song becomes an anthem that encapsulates all of that and this overwhelming sense of, I don't know how the hell I feel about it. And then you become closer to his children, and Jack and Kelly have been so unbelievably supportive of me for years, but we've connected even more, and Sharon even more, and then it gets Grammy nominated. And you're trying to unpack, like, as a singer, to be Grammy nominated for a live performance where you can't go in the studio and overdub it, where you can't make it perfect, where it was a moment that happened and is gone, and you can't share it with the guy that you were singing to, it's just, I'm just trying to unpack it all, because it's an honor, but it's also tragic.
Like, to go from being in, around these other musicians and having these idols from I passed through it, like a pretty small little town.
Yeah.
To being left out and to feeling like an outsider and feeling like kind of picked on and kind of bullied. And then to be on this treadmill nonstop, meeting your heroes, singing with your heroes. I don't got a question for you, man. That's just, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no,
it's a lot,
It's wild. And I think as I go through into the next phase of what I do, I just feel when we talk about Ozzy, I feel so blessed to have been in his orbit. Not necessarily as a fan, but to get to know him and to have his cross, that when I'm lost or when I'm on this next journey of trying to figure out where the hell do I want to take my music, and how can we breathe some fresh life into a genre that has been so unbelievably iconic for 100 years. It's a trip, man. It's a real trip. But I am so grateful, and I think that's the biggest word of the year that I can kind of unpack and say that gratitude is like the biggest adjective that I am feeling after this year.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you about the tour dates. I'm not going to ask you about the concerts, but I'm going to say I hope you're doing all right. I hope you get through it, and I hope you
No,
get
I
a
am.
good space.
I really feel like I need to. For the first time, people around me have just said, like, don't take the piss out of this, because it's in my nature to run and run and run and run until the wheels fall off. But I just feel like I really need to unpack this, and because, as I say, January 1st we head to Australia, and the world tour continues till 20. Basically, we're booking dates till 28 now, and I've got to make another album in the middle of it, and I really want to do do it justice, and I really need to take the time to feel this and to look at it, or I'm not gonna feel anything at all. You know, I think if you don't process things, you become numb, and you become a. There's so many rock stars that are because they never felt anything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I really want to be present and thankful to whatever the universe, to my idols, and most importantly, my community that have stuck by me. I want to be able to look them in the eye and be there for the next 20 years instead of it being either taken for granted, glazed over, or not real at all. That would break my heart.
I wish you the best, and I think you made a great record, and I think it's very cool that you got to sing with the guys who wrote "Love in an Elevator," and
Insane.
it's wild. So nice to meet you, man. Take care of yourself.
Nice to meet you too. I hope we get to have a pie next time I'm up there.
You know, did you know that I was playing at the pub next door to the Danforth when you played in Toronto, and I didn't know you were playing. So I was playing next door. I was playing little session fiddles and accordions and all that, and all of a sudden, all these people who look like you came into the pub, and I went. Is Yungblud, honest to God, I went, is Yungblud playing around here? And I looked it up and I was like, there you were.
Insane. We're playing the Coliseum next summer, so I'll make sure we get to have a pint around that time.
Yeah, pints on me. Take care of yourself.
Deal, man. Thanks so much. Lots of love.